My name is Alison Louise Gibbs. I originally come from southern England, Portsmouth. I remember when I was 11 years old in Sunday school announcing that I was going to be a missionary. I think I didn't quite understand then exactly what it meant to be a missionary. I'd read about David Livingstone, I'd read about the missionaries that had worked in the Pacific. But I strongly felt, even at that age, that God was calling me for mission work. And right from then, I continued to work towards that. And as time went on, I realised that the best thing for me was to be a teacher and to offer my mission service in teaching. And in 1977, after I'd finished college, I had the opportunity to join a youth group that was coming to Zambia. And we went round, we went to Livingstone, and we ended up at Maple Shore. And we went around, and whilst I was in Zambia on that youth trip, I realised that God was definitely calling me to work in Zambia. So when I went back, everything I was doing, because I couldn't get a teaching job, like here, they had, at that stage, trained too many teachers. So I ended up working for the equivalent of ZRA and doing small jobs, working in factories, packing crisps, looking after children, cleaning houses, which I now know has helped me, has given me different ideas of what work is. So not just working in a school. So I had that opportunity. And then I managed to get a job in the UK. I worked there for 5 years. And then I was lucky enough to be picked to serve with CWM. And I was given a choice. I was told there's a job in a place called Sefula in Zambia. There are 2 jobs in Papua New Guinea and 1 in the Solomon Islands. The one in the Solomon Islands, you could only get to the school by canoe. And there was no electricity or anything. So I said, okay, I know God wants me in Zambia, so Sefula, please. And if not, then Papua New Guinea. Absolutely not Solomon Islands. Well, I ended up in the Solomon Islands. And it was a wonderful place. It was exactly where God wanted me to be at that point. And I stayed there for 8 years. And I think I learned a lot from there. That was very remote. There were 2 20-week terms. I did my shopping twice a year in the capital and sent all my food up by boat. So it was where God wanted me at the time, and I did teaching. I ended up as head of department, senior mistress, matron. I did various jobs, girl guide leader. And then after 8 years, I felt that it was time to move on. So I then spent 4 years in Tuvalu, another school in another part of the Pacific. And then after the 4 years, I still felt that God wanted me to come to Zambia. And I talked to CWM, and then there was a position in Zambia. So I ended up here in Zambia in 1977. And my first school that I was sent to was Chipembe Girls. And I was there for about 3.5 years. I worked as a teacher, as house mistress, and as the bursar. And I got very involved with the head teacher and the agriculture teacher. The head teacher, the late Mr. Lumbama, I learned a lot from him, how to set up projects. And also the agriculture teacher, Mr. Chituka, who is now the head teacher. We worked well together. I remember the two of us going off and buying the first cows. I remember the three of us, to choose the first bull. We set up the project for layers and various others. At one point I was assistant piggery manager. I certainly enjoyed my time at the school and learnt a great deal. And I hope that I helped pupils in various ways, not just in the classroom, but the way we interacted with them. But at the time I felt that I would be better off elsewhere. Chipembe was able to find teachers. It was known to be a good school. So I felt that I should offer to move maybe to another school which didn't have so many teachers and had more need. So the UCZ sent me to work at Safula in Western Province in January 2001. Very different place. Sand, the car I had, CWM had helped to buy a car for my use. The car I had was always getting stuck in the sand. That was a problem. But the people there were very much poorer. Because of the sand, it was very difficult for them to grow anything. So I was teaching, I was house mistress, but somehow I became more and more involved in the community work. In particular, my vehicle was the only vehicle around that was available, especially at night. They would come from the clinic to ask me to rush patients to the hospital, to Luanika Hospital in Mongu. So I would deal with that. And I hope that maybe I was able to help people to survive. Sometimes women would be in problems with delivering and things like that. And it was at Safula that the women approached me to ask me to join the WCF. And their comment was, "You're doing what you're supposed to do as a member of WCF anyway, so you should join us." And the actual blousing was done at Safula. And we had just finished the blousing, and before the sermon started, they came from the clinic to say I was needed to rush a very sick woman to the hospital. So the leaders of WCF said, "This is your work, go." So I never finished the service. I was bloused, and then I ended up at the hospital with the patient. So so I felt very much that that was what I was supposed to be doing. There was a time, late one afternoon, a man came to the school and said he'd heard there was a woman with a car. His wife and daughter had come across the Zambezi, and the daughter was having problems during childbirth. So the then head teacher told me to go. The man assured me that the sand was not difficult, but we got stuck in the sand. The first time we dug ourselves out. The second time I thought I was there for the night. And we were there for over an hour, and somehow we prayed, and I said, right, one more chance, and we managed to get ourselves out. And we finally found the lady who'd actually given birth on the side of the road when we got there, on the path. But she was obviously in trouble, and the baby was also in trouble. So we rushed them to the hospital, and they both survived. And on the strength of that, CWM sent money for a 4-wheel drive vehicle, which made life much easier. It's very embarrassing when you're taking a coffin for burial and you get stuck in the sand before you get to the actual graveside. So they have to carry the coffin further than they expected. So having a four-wheel drive vehicle made life easier. I felt that was what God wanted me to be doing, using my vehicle, because people there did not have money to hire vehicles. I was disappointed when the church asked me to move to Mwenzo at the beginning of 2006, because I really felt that God was using me at Safula, and I had made some very good friends there. But when I was in Zambia to help the UCZ, and when they asked me to move and say that they felt that I was the right person to take over the running of a school they'd just taken back from the government, even though I'd never heard of the school and I didn't really know where Nakonde was, I felt I had to say yes. But when I was first told, I went back to the minister, Reverend Nyambe, and said, they're sending me all the way to Mwenzo in Nakonde. I don't even know where it is. And he laughed and said, that's where my wife comes from. And her two sisters will be in grade 12 next year at the school. And somehow that was enough to calm me down and make me realise that God had this plan for me. Mwenzo itself, having been a government school for many years, it was a struggle at the beginning to take it back as a mission school. The girls' behaviour was very poor. They were used to going out of bounds. They were used to going off with men. The results were very poor, less than 50% at grade 12. Fortunately, I found the new chaplain had arrived about a month before me, Deaconess Alice Zulu. Yes. And we became very close friends as well as good colleagues, and we worked very well together. And I had various deputies who also worked with me, and because it's not a one-man show, you can't run a school on your own. So I have to say the first thing was discipline, because without discipline you can't get good results. So we started with discipline right from, wearing the tie, wearing the socks properly, right from that, and also discipline of teachers. I used to go maybe twice or three times even a day round the classrooms, putting my head through the window, who's supposed to be teaching here? And when I would find out, I would go looking for that person, the teacher. Some teachers left fairly quickly because they couldn't manage to cope with that. Others seemed to understand that, life was different. And I think within 3 years, the results, I think after 3 years we had the first 100%. Then we had a couple of years in the 90s, and now it's been 7 years of 100% at grade 12. And yes, the discipline is there, but I strongly believe that you need self-discipline in order to study properly. And that's one of the things I hope that most of the girls learnt was self-discipline, but you have to start with actual discipline. I have met a lot of ex-pupils who have thanked me and the staff for what we did. Many of those girls would not have had a chance of a proper education if they hadn't come to Mwenzo. And so many of them went on to college and university. And I feel that if that is all I've managed to do, to get the girls educated in a small way, then I have done something for some of these girls in Zambia and for their families, because many are already married and with children. Then in 2018 I was told, when I was going on leave, that I was being moved. I had been asking, don't you think it's time I should move on? And was told, no, just wait. But in December 2018 I was told I was being moved to Mableshore. So when I came back from leave, then I moved to Mableshore in Luapula. It had been back under the UCZ running for quite some years, but somehow things were not going as well as they should. It was, I think, quite a struggle at the beginning, because many things were not going right. And, people don't like change. But we began to do things. And it was interesting, when I was leaving, so many members of staff came to tell me how much they had learnt from me. One of the things I feel is important for me as a head teacher is to actually try and mentor the younger teachers and to encourage them to look for the future. I would be encouraging them to do further studies. I gave some chances for, put people into positions like boarding teacher, assistant boarding teacher, procurement, this kind of thing, stores, to give them a chance to show what they could do and to bring them out, and then to talk about their future and what they should be doing in the future. I feel that's the job of a head teacher, that you should be doing that. But I know that that is not always something that head teachers like to do. I remember I was the one when we began at Muchinga province, when we split from Northern province. I had an excellent deputy who was a very good maths teacher, and he'd really improved the teaching of maths at the school. And so I recommended him as the CESO mathematics to Mr. Kalumba, the then PEO, and he got the job. And so many fellow head teachers came to me and said, "What do you think you're doing? He's now your boss when he was under you." I said, "That doesn't matter. He's the right person for that job." To me, that's not a problem. And that's what I would like to do, to see people that I have worked with moving on and getting promotions when it's due to them. Brescia is a very different place, but it's a beautiful place. I love the surroundings, and there is plenty of land. This season, we have managed to plant 5 hectares of maize. We could have done more, but we didn't have the money for the seed and the fertilizer. But 5 hectares is the beginning. And I managed to find a young man who comes from Mwenzo area, who did his teaching practice at Mwenzo Girls as an agriculture teacher. And we needed one, and he is still under the board. I brought him to Mableshore, and he has pushed and improved the production unit section as well as teaching of agriculture. And he's in charge of the chickens. We have broilers, and every week the girls get fed chickens, and that makes a profit. And he's also involved in other sections. And I feel that agriculture, particularly at Mableshore, is the way to go because there is land and it is relatively easy to grow things there. There is even room, the school is not as big as it should be. There's room for between 750, 800 pupils, and the maximum since I've been there is 500. So it's possible to have a bigger school. And the results are improving. The last year, grade 9 was 85. This year was 96% for grade 9. We haven't yet been told what grade 12 was. I heard a rumour that we might have had 100, but I'm not sure. We're still waiting to hear. But I feel that has improved. The local people have been saying that the pupils themselves are no longer wandering around because there's a guard 24 hours on the gate. We fixed the wall fence and put a guard on the gate 24 hours so they can't wander out. Because after all, when the girls are sent to school, the parents expect us to look after them. We don't want girls disappearing and getting pregnant and things like that. It's unfortunate that is something that we are dealing with, especially due to the closures for COVID. In 2021 and in 2020, we had to deal with two girls who had both got pregnant when they were 13 during closures, which is a very sad thing. But we're working with them, and we are expecting a new chaplain at the school. This week, I think, she should be reporting, and hopefully that she will be able to work with the girls to talk about their behaviour and their attitudes and things. But certainly we've put worship there in the forefront. There used to be a Tuesday evening service, and because it was in the dark, very often a lot of pupils wouldn't go. So when we got the new deputy, who's now the head, when he came early last year, he advised me that we should change the midweek service to I think it was at 16:45. So it was dealt with during the day, and that somehow that helped a lot, and it meant that at times the mission director, the Reverend Salavwe, would come and lead the service, and others as well as on the Sunday. So it also became something that the girls got used to attending. And we don't have the big problem that we had when I first went, even on a Sunday, of girls hiding in the dormitories and having to be chased and making noise during service. That seems to have stopped, which is an encouragement. I suppose that I feel that God has a plan for me, and whatever God's plan is, I have to follow. And the old, sort of system of being a missionary, going and preaching the good word, is not what happens nowadays normally. But I hope that I have shown in the way that I live my life and the way I do my work, I show God working through me. I feel that I am doing what God wants me to do. I ended up at Safula, which was where I originally thought I should be going, and I did get there in the end. And having been at Mableshore in 77 just for a visit, to end my career as a mission partner there. I don't know whether it's God has a plan, and he also has a sense of humour, because to me it's just, I don't know if it's ironic or funny that, you know, all these places where I thought I should be, I ended up finally. But the motivation is to do God's will and to help where I can. And for me, being single has helped. It's not that I've refused to get married. I always said if God had given me the right person and shown clearly that this was supposed to be my husband, I would have got married. But it never happened, and I can't say that I've regretted it at all. But I would not have been able to do the work I have done and put in the hours, the awkward hours that I have done, if I had a husband and children and then grandchildren to help look after. So I feel that God knew what he was doing, and I have no worries about going back, because God will also lead me to the right place. I would say, first of all, make very sure that this is what you want to do. But if you strongly feel, after time of prayer and talking to other people, that this is what God is leading you to do, then go for it. Offer yourself. If it is the wrong time or it is not for you, then you will be stopped. The first time I applied for mission work was before I actually got a teaching job, and I was told, no, you need some teaching experience. So soon after that, within a month, I had a teaching job, and I worked in the UK as a teacher for 5 years, and then I was accepted. Sometimes God says not yet, but it doesn't mean never. But God also, you know, has different ways that he uses people. So he may say, yes, you are needed in this area for 5 years or 3 years or 10 years, or in my case 36 years. But it depends on God's plan for you, and you have to be open to God's leading. And if you feel that you're being pushed and everything is leading you in one direction, then go and try that direction. If it's correct, then the doors will open. If somebody is married, in some ways that makes it easier for them, because they are a couple and maybe with a family, small young children. It can be easier for them. You know, God has different ways of using people. So I would say, yes, test the waters, talk to people, pray about it, and if you still feel it's right, realizing that it is not the easy option. Life is not easy as a mission partner. I've had a wonderful life, but in between there have been, sort of downtimes. Life can be difficult, but life can be difficult wherever you are. Even if I'd stayed in the UK, I would have had difficult times. So you can't say it's just because of where you are, but life is not perfect wherever you are. You will always find problems. But I have met so many wonderful people. I have so many members of my family here in Zambia. It's going to be very difficult to leave them. And I'm just hoping that they will find chances to come and visit me. But I will certainly say that if it is the right thing, God will give you the most wonderful life and will show you that this is where he wants you. I am not good at language. I used to hear Lozi, but I've lost that now. I would say that was probably the one I heard most. But I find language difficult. No, I think in the Solomon Islands I learnt Pidgin English and even preached in Pidgin. I can hear a bit, but I get too embarrassed trying to speak. We know. That's it. And luckily, when you work in a secondary school, it is imperative that the pupils speak English. So when they know that I don't speak the local language, then they have to struggle to speak English. And it's amazing. They learn. The grade 8s and 10s, when they come new to school, when I stand up and talk for assembly, I have to go very slowly and remember to use simple language. But quickly they learn. Of course, I'm going back because I'm older, and I will shortly be 67, but I'm not yet ready to sit at home and do nothing and feel old. I don't feel that old yet. I don't know. To me, it's exciting because I'm not sure yet where I'm going to be living, and I therefore don't know what I will be doing. But I know that God has a plan for me, that I will find a place to live and hopefully a strong church where I will be based, and then I will wait for God to make it clear what he wants me to be doing, because definitely he still has work for me to do. And I think that's quite exciting. I'm struggling to say goodbye to people and to leave Zambia after all these years. So what I'm focusing on is the new challenges, the exciting things that are going to be in my life when I get back to the UK. And I know that there is no way that God is just going to leave me without a mission. And we can do mission in our homeland, near our house, in our local church, as much as we can do outside the country. So I know that God has a mission already planned. So I'm looking forward to that. I can think of various ex-pupils that I have met just by chance who say, remember me, you taught me at Chipembe or Safula or Mwenzo, and then they tell you what they're doing. I'm a pharmacist now, I'm a teacher. I've met in Mwansabombwe, I've met 2 young lady teachers who said, no, I was at Mwenzo, you were my head. And they've been boasting around to their head teachers, this was my head. And both head teachers have come to me and said, they say that you're the reason why they're hardworking. I mean, I'm not sure that's true, but it's an encouragement to me. And, to find people who say, because of what happened at the school where you were, I am now where I am, is really a big encouragement. I can think of various people that I rushed to the hospital when I was at Safula, who survived and are now adults and are, productively working. And I feel that maybe I helped out there. I just have a lot of friends that, teachers, church workers that I've worked with, people in the community, right down to drivers at the school, cooks at the school. I feel that I have made so many friends, and that's why it's going to be difficult to leave, because of the friendships that you make. So it's difficult picking out individual things. There are so many things that I will be remembering. I would like to say thank you, first of all, to CWM for giving me this opportunity to work through them, to do God's will, both in the Pacific and in Zambia, and in particular the leadership of the United Church of Zambia, who have allowed me to remain and to help in a small way in education and within the communities. Without the United Church of Zambia allowing me to be here, then I would not have remained, and I could not have done what God wanted me to do. So I thank them sincerely for the way that they have looked after me, have ensured my safety, and that I have everything I need. I have never been in difficulty, because I know, there's always been not just the synod, but the ministers and the presbytery bishops that I've worked with, that I couldn't go to and get help from. And also there are times when I have needed not just physical help, but somebody to talk to. Being a mission partner doesn't mean that everything always goes well. Sometimes you need to discuss personal issues with someone, and the local ministers, the presbytery bishops have always been very open to helping and advising and counselling, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And hopefully, if I can manage to get a 2-bedroom place, people will be welcome if they are ever in the part of the world where I will be. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you.